The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are.
I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
Don't think, feel. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome, Nick. How you doing?
Well, my brother, really well.
So I've run into a hero of mine lately a couple times now. Today I was doing dips in the gym. It's my last chest exercise. And I have a great pump going. I'm like making some gnarly faces, gutting out some repetitions. And who walks around the corner but Arnold Schwarzenegger? Again. And I'm like, my buddy Bob's like, dude, you're manifesting Arnold. Call him to you. But still, he's close, and I'm training, and he's above me on the damn monitor at Gold's, right? Pumping Iron is always looping there at Gold's Gym in Venice.
Yeah.
And so he's on the monitor above me, and he's in front of me, doing, like, training arms. And I still, for whatever reason, it's just not appropriate for me to approach him. I don't want to be like, hey, man, you're a huge inspiration, probably one of the most influential people in my life. I've never even met you. You're not even aware of me. Now I know he's aware of me because it's twice now, right? And so I've been interested in this idea of what happens when you finally meet somebody that has had that much of an influence on your life. So my question for you today is, have you ever met any of your heroes, and what was that like? Did it change how you think about them?
That's a great question and a very difficult one to answer as well. I want to talk more about Arnold. That's
Right.
awesome. I'll answer your question in a minute, but I just watched Terminator Genisys.
Any good?
Yeah, Arnold carried it, dude. He carried it. Terminator 2 is my favorite film of all time.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, and so it's kind of, I had to watch it. But in a way, it has tainted that childhood memory a little bit. And I wanted to say to you, bro, you are living the dream. You're working out at Gold's in Venice. You're basically training with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Let's call it what it is. And in fact, you should use that line as some marketing material for your personal training business. Like, trained with Arnold Schwarzenegger at Gold's Gym.
I'm actually his trainer. He asks me all the time. He's like,
okay,
how do I get my calves to grow?
Dude, that would be pushing a little bit. Come on. Right. Seriously. But that's, amazing, dude. Did you ever think... Okay, so a parallel in my life is when I was about 19 or 20, I started doing, taking my grappling pretty seriously, and I was in Cape Town. And this is a cool story. Well, I like to think it's a cool story. My idol at the time, back then the internet hadn't really hit big yet, and South Africa, being the super isolated place it was 10 years or 20 years behind the world and everything else.
Really?
Yeah. But somehow the little group that I was doing my grappling training with, some VHS cassettes of certain martial arts instructional films or documentaries had kind of filtered down, and they were being handed around. And you remember what a VHS that's been around like a few times, like blurry as fuck and just shitty. And there was one documentary on Rickson Gracie. It's called Choke, which is fascinating. One of the most influential films I've ever seen. If anyone hasn't seen it, I thoroughly recommend it. You can watch it for free on YouTube. And I watched it, and that guy very quickly became an idol of mine. A few years later, I was in the United States. I'd been living in London for a while. I was training jiu-jitsu, and then I went to compete in the Jiu-Jitsu World Championships in Long Beach in California. And I was, when you go to sports events, there's those stands where people sit.
Yeah.
And there's a specific warm-up area at the World Championships, which is basically underneath those stands. Right. So if you can imagine that. So I went there, and I was the only guy there actually. Or as I came around the corner, I thought it was the only person there, and then I saw Rickson Gracie helping his son warm up for his jiu-jitsu match. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I was about to like say hi to him, and then I realized, man, he doesn't want to get bugged by me at this point. Like, he's trying to get his son ready. But I just moved a little bit further down and went and did my own warm up, and I thought, fuck, dude, like I used to watch this guy's videos, you know, and that world was so far away from anything I could possibly imagine, and here I am warming up like 10 feet away, getting ready to fight in the Jiu-Jitsu World Championship while he's coaching his son and getting him ready to fight. And I think that is not far off you being in Austin or wherever it was you were watching Pumping Iron, and then fuck, dude, you're in fact, that is pretty much the exact same story,
it's the
right?
Same.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Dude, yeah, we're very lucky men.
Now, did you go back that day and tell all your friends, like, Rickson Gracie was there with his son, and I almost said hello to him, but I couldn't say hello, but I almost did.
Fuck yeah, I did.
Right. And your buddies are like, Nick, with the almost stories, why don't you tell us a story where you fucking went after it? I know, that's how I feel too.
Yeah. That's cool, dude. But yeah, bro, I guess, I mean, fame and celebrity, I quickly realized that, man, celebrities are just people, dude. It's such a cliched statement, but they literally are just people with their own imperfections and insecurities like all the rest of us. And the sooner you understand that, I guess the better for us and for them.
Well, so is Roger Rickson's younger brother?
No, he's a cousin of his.
Oh, cousin. Okay. So did you tell Roger that story?
I didn't actually. I don't think it would have meant much to him.
It'd have been like, that guy's a dick.
I don't think so, but he just would have been like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I grew up training with him or whatever. I mean, that's not really, you know what I mean? It would have been blasé almost for him. But I guess my question is, what is your opener going to be when you eventually work up the courage to chat to Arnie?
Oh, I'm going to tell him, because this whole Arnold coming into my life thing happened.
I wonder if Arnold thinks about it that way, that he's
coming
into your life.
The first time I encountered him in Southern California, in Los Angeles, he almost hit me on his bicycle in Santa Monica, in Palisades Park. And he was riding with his, bodyguard, and I was running, and I thought I was running down the road, and he's coming like this, and he sees this girl who's sitting, like her back up against a palm tree on a towel. And he doesn't say like hello like a normal person. He says, nice to see you, as if he's seen them before, which I think is so cool. He doesn't just say, hey, how's it going? He's like, nice to see you. And I was like, I want to start saying that. It's really good. So he almost hit me then, and I was like, that was my first Arnold thing. That was like my Arnold story, right? And then my buddy Bob, like 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, goes, who's the most influential person in your life? And without a pause, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he's like, have you ever met him? And I was like, no. He's like, don't you think that's weird? And I was like, yeah, it's fucking weird. So then I wrote a blog post about it. Well, I didn't write the blog post. We had that conversation in the morning, and 30 minutes later, we're in Gold's Gym, and that's when I saw him for the first time, and we, locked eyes. I was like, holy shit, it's fucking Arnold.
You stared him down, huh?
Yeah. I had a crazy pump in my calves. I was like, you see this? You see this?
Amazing.
And then today was like much more of like, wow, there's the dude. We're, in a very close proximity the whole time. And it started at Gold's Venice. I mean, that's like a who's who of all those bodybuilders I remember from the 90s in the magazines, plus current champions, all the, seen 50 Cent in there a bunch of times. It's not weird. Like, everyone goes in there and like leaves each other alone. I always see Lou Ferrigno, and that was the start. I was like, man, look at these guys from Pumping Iron, which is playing while we're there, to motivate everybody. And people are really working hard. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know. I'll probably say, sorry for this lengthy roundabout. I get really excited just talking about it. I'll tell him, hey man, you're the most influential person in my life. And I thought it would, be appropriate for me to at least tell you that and meet you and, say thanks for all you've done, because it's been a huge inspiration. That's exactly awesome. What I'd say.
And I mean, what kind of person would he be if he didn't take that well and be positive and respond in a positive way towards you. Do you know what I mean? Like if you said that to him with a good energy and you kept like a respectful sort of distance and stayed out of his face and like you don't look like a weirdo or anything like that. And if you did that and he wasn't cool or at least courteous, then I think you'd have to reappraise your estimation of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Very well said. And that's why I asked, that was the tail end of my question to you, because it's so interesting. We've all heard the stories where somebody finally meets their hero and they totally blow them off, or they're an asshole, or they don't have time, or they can't be friendly, whatever it is. I just don't want that to happen because, man, I mean, in a lot of ways, like I aspire to all those things. So it'd be really fucked up to be like, well, and he's a terrible person when you try and, thank him for all the things he's done, to inspire you.
I'm very excited to hear what happens, dude. I think it'll probably be a whole episode of Digital Communion in itself.
Finally met Arnold.
Oh, man. Thomas met Arnold for real.
Yeah, for real. Exactly. When he finally broke the ice.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to that. So what you got going on today, Thomas?
Today, I have a bunch of family in town, so we'll go down to the beach. I'll get in the water, the mother, and probably body surf some waves and play with my niece, my niece is an old-timey baby, and my sister didn't know how to take that. I was like, you have an old-timey baby.
What does that mean?
She goes, what does that mean? I was like, you look like your baby is from the 1890s. I don't know what it is about your baby, but you got an old-timey baby. She looks like, if you look at a picture of like a pioneer family in the American West, and the baby is like something about like she's got little thin eyebrows and really blue eyes. She looks, I don't know how else to articulate it, Nick. That's an old-timey baby. You see that and be like, that's a blast from the past.
Speaking of your family, you once mentioned to me that your grandmother is 99 years old or something?
False. 104.
No, stop it.
Yeah, she's 104. And I see her just about every weekend. I go visit her in Orange County, where she is now. Before she was way out in like West Covina, which is way east on I-10. And she lived on her own until she was 103. Then she fell down, passed out, was unresponsive for like 2 days. They found her face down. She was dehydrated, had like a urinary tract infection, and then she ended up in assisted living.
That's when you finally realized, like, okay.
Yeah. I might need some help. At 103, though, dude.
Unbelievable.
But here's the thing. Because of our weird relationship with the elderly in this society, it's like when my parents and, when the family told the doctor's like, well, what was she doing? They're like, well, she's, she was like, I don't know, going to the bathroom or something. He's like, by herself? You let this woman live by herself?
Wow.
Almost as if they were criminal for allowing her to be an independent older person.
Wow.
You know what I mean? As if when a person gets put into that assisted living, we give them so much more respect, or we give them so much more love, or we spend so much more time with them. It's not true. It's usually the opposite's true. And that begins the slow deterioration of, that person. They become a shell of them for their former selves normally, and they just start to wilt until they pass away, which is sad.
This brings up a bunch of things for me. I mean, the first is I didn't really know my grandparents. Most of them had passed away before I was born, or the ones that were around when I was born lived very far away. So I only met them maybe 5 times in total, and that was when I was very young. So I kind of feel that I got a bit of a raw deal on the grandparents thing.
Sure.
But one thing that someone who I consider to be very influential in my life is a complete health freak, but he has some very good ideas. He's actually quite similar to you, if I'm completely honest.
Freak.
He was saying, we were talking about longevity, and he had this what at the time I considered to be quite a harsh view, but now I'm starting to wonder if maybe he was correct, which is that when he gets to an age where he becomes a burden on anyone, like he doesn't want to be around anymore, and he will take whatever steps are necessary for him to check out. And I've been thinking for a long time about it, like, what is it that keeps an 80 let's say, hypothetically speaking, an 88-year-old man who is, you know what it's like, you know what the average person who makes it to that age and who hasn't looked after themselves is like. I mean, there's a lot of degeneration going on. They're incontinent. They're fucking. They can't see. They can't hear. Not very mobile. And I guess my question is, what keeps a person like that wanting to wake up each day and continue? I can understand if you have grandchildren and you want to watch their legacy or watch your legacy and be involved in their lives and stuff. But if you don't have those motivating factors, why? I'm of the opinion that, and I guess it's easy to say it now, but if I ever get to that point, I am going to jump out of an airplane without a parachute or do something equally cool to end it all.
Cool.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, when you spend time with your grandmother, does she seem like she's fulfilled and happy and enjoying life and happy to have made it to this age? And what insights can you give me on having a 104-year-old grandmother?
That's a lot of questions there, and great ones, because I've been thinking a lot about this and talking a lot about it lately. With Mimi, the 104-year-old grandmother, there are certain days when she's extremely lucid, when she is just, generally speaking, at this point, she has some tapes. We call them tapes, and that's just her going into the same stories that we've heard 100 times. Or it'll be, a story a few months old that's gotten into her tape player, so to speak. And then there are other days, the ones that I really, really cherish, when I show up and she's like a little bit, pensive and thoughtful and like, maybe what's going on? And she's like, I feel like I might have been a little bit too cruel to my employees in that hospital that I ran for 35 years. I could have been a lot nicer. And I'm like, wow. And then just 2 weeks ago, she took the picture of my grandfather, Carl. He died when he was 84 or 83 in 1994.
No staying power.
She's yeah, right, exactly. Parkinson's, actually. Neurodegenerative disease. So that'll be a topic for another day for sure, because I definitely want to talk about that. But she took the picture of him that was by her bedside, and she's like, oh yeah, I put it in the drawer. I just can't torture myself anymore. The pain hasn't gotten any less deep.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Now at 104, now you wanna put his picture away? It's really interesting to see the way that mind works. You know what I mean? And normally I get the tapes. It's a very superficial conversation. And when I get that, and I say, okay, well, why do you, back to the first, statement she made, well, why do you feel like you mistreated your employees, and what could you have done differently? And, I get her to start speaking, and now she's making new thoughts, and her mind is activated, and she's solving new problems, as opposed to just rehashing the same shit. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And with Carl, it's like, well, emotionally, what do you do? I mean, so does that mean you're looking for new love? I mean, do you want to think about something else? Do you just want to take your mind off of that visual representation of the past? Because we sort of ignore the elderly and treat them so poorly to begin with, I think that has everything to do with the way they deteriorate. But the way you're talking is the way I've always talked about aging. I'm like, well, fuck that. I don't even want to be around if ALS sets in, or Lou Gehrig's, or Parkinson's, or any neurodegenerative disease where I start to fall apart mentally. Like, and you'll notice it around you. People will give you weird looks, or be like, yeah, you told us that. If you've ever been super hammered and told the same story to some girls in France drinking Chablis in Paris at night, oh man, it's bad. Like, I don't think there's few things that are more awkward than that, and I'm sure you can think of them, but that sucks to be like, and then I said, and they're like, yeah, you just told us that. And you're like, oh, it just stings. Oh, it stings. Yeah. But anyway, I don't want to, we can talk a big game, like we don't want to be around when we're less than, the best versions of ourselves mentally, physically, blah, blah, blah. I bet you get to a point where you just fucking cling to life.
Wow.
Where you're just like, I am not letting this go for anything, because if I could just get one more day and see the sunshine and see the way that it comes through, droplets on a spider web, or if I can see one more wave just peel perfectly across the shore. Oh man, it gives me, you can't see the chills in my arms, but that's why they cling to life, dude. Not because they're just stubborn. Maybe that too.
Interesting. That's a very interesting perspective. I appreciate that. I really hope I meet your grandmother while she's still around.
Yeah, you got to come back into. She would love you.
Yeah,
it's far out, man. It's just super weird. And like the weekend, she was hanging out with the family, and my sister's baby is 1 year old, right? Ellery. And she's like, Mimi's like, who's this? I was like, Mimi, we told you that's Andrea's kid. That's Ellery. She's 1. And she's like, oh, okay. And then like 5 seconds later, who's that baby? I'm like, Mimi, that's Ellery. And she goes, how old is she? I'm like, oh, she's 1 year old. I'm like, Mimi, the last time you were 1 year old, it was 1912.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and she pauses for a minute, and she's like, yeah. Like, isn't that just fucking crazy? And we all came, not directly, but like derivatively from your vagina, kind of. It's nuts, dude.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for sharing that with me. And on that note, if you enjoyed Digital Communion, please leave us a review in iTunes. That really means the world to us. And share on Facebook or Twitter or any other social media. We really appreciate that.
Yes.
Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.